Hi there, Randi Green here, and welcome to the second podcast in this little sequel. And for those of you who haven't listened to the entirety of podcast one, because you just kind of, let me get to the point, let me get to the pointers where you sum up, and this is what it is all about, a little bit impatient. I will ask of you to listen to all of the details, because this is just as much a teaching session where it's a lot of details that you need to understand, because to understand the answers to some of our questions, we also need to understand the sciences behind the questions that we ask. So we are not just asking random question like a 5-year-old getting an answer and then just going, yeah, too difficult, and then moving on, because that's not the idea. I'm working with patterns of change here, because as you just learned in the first podcast, if we want to change reality, we have to change who and what we are, and we change what we are by what we know. But what we know is not just about linear knowledge, as in, yeah, I just know this, and then you can talk about it and kind of the information, as if someone asks you, you will be able to tell this is what it is. You need to really understand it. And understand it is not to stand under it, but to really have contemplated on the enormous amount of information that are in that knowledge. And what can that information do for your energy system? How can that adapt and change your energy system? So for those of you who just want to do today, everything has to be the quick fix, quick overview, quick 5 minutes where you get everything up, summed up into some kind of concept that is easy to chew and to ingest, and then you have all the knowledge. We're here talking much, much more complex information system building. And for those of you who haven't got the patience to listen to all of the podcasts, well, I'm just going to put in there. Of course, that's all up to you. Do what you want to do, but you will miss the pointers. You will miss the information that will build the pattern. Naturally, I cannot build the entire complexity of the pattern, because this is multidimensional thought processes that understands that we're working within a spectrum of energy, and we're working within a spectrum of knowledge and a spectrum of information. So we begin with one level, and that is, we could say, where we, where we align our information with what we know of. That means other people, our planet, what we are accustomed of. But you see, the problem with quite a lot of the human mindset is that just because what we're seeing around us are typically in alignment with our ideas and our value systems does not mean that other people have the same ideas and the same value systems. It's kind of a program that humans have in their brain, that they think that others think like them, that they assume that other people are doing what they are doing. And then they get completely, and I love to play on the pun on that one, constipated and consternated when they see that other people are not thinking like they are. They get completely surprised, and they are kind of, what? As in heaven has fallen down on their around their ears, as we say in Denmark, and and in that way have kind of lost contact with reality, and suddenly are put into what we call a crisis of self and others, and what can I perceive, and what is real and what's not real. And that is also what in psychology what we call projection mechanism. We have a tendency to project, like a projection we put on our value system onto others. We mirror what we have into others. We think that they are what we are. And the first important step is to understand that nobody really is what you are. So the first learning process is to really listen to what other people are saying. The second learning process is to contemplate on what they're saying, but also to psychic energetically, really viewing the complex information system that is in front of you. That's a human being. Yes, that does not mean that you put your brain on hold and then you stop interpreting what's in front of you. No, you look at that person and you are looking at every single detail on that person, from what they're wearing to how the way that they hold themselves, the way that they speak, the whatever they are of original features of their lineages. And I'm here talking both within the base program, but also beyond. So you have the double awareness of everything that you see. You're seeing the base program representation, and you treat that respectfully and in kindness, as we think that humans should treat each other, right? We begin there. But we are also seeing the higher levels of what we're dealing with. And the difference between the diplomat and the more naive, well-intended people is that they have this tendency to project onto others that everybody, since they're a good person, everybody else must be good persons. And I think that's a really good approach. I have that as well. I always assume that other people are orderly, well-functioning people, whatever that means. And then I talk to them as if they are there. And then throughout the conversation, I shift modality, because I am not field intrusion, reading them against their will, but I'm just getting a lot of information from them. And then I adjust to that, and then I approach them from where it is suitable to approach that person. That is principle 2, the law of balance, energetic balance. I am responding with the amount of energy that is suitable for the person in front of me. I'm responding in a manner that is suitable for the person in front of me, so that person in front of me will feel met and understood and seen in a manner that that person would like to be seen, in the manner that that person has created that interface system, as in, this is who I am, this is my personal story, this is my narrative, and I'm very protective of that, and I respect that, because that is what keeps people together, their personality matrix. That's what they are made of. That's what's keeping all of their energy units coherently working together within a specific spectrum of reality, from where they play their role and have their function, not mine to meddle with. So that's the more scientific approach to what you know, treat others as you would like to be treated yourself, right? So this is the more scientific angle on it. And you'll say, why even go there? You can just be kind to others and they will be kind to you. Yes, most of the time. But when we are dealing with the future of our system, and we are beginning to have other life forms here that might not play by our rule book, that play by other laws and other rule books, that are deliberately creating sections of their reality setting within our reality setting, so that they will walk in the energy fields of their own system while they are here, that as a pocket reality inside our reality, that means that even though they are walking beside us, they will, per field energy link up, be connected to their own reality. And via that, they will play by their own laws and with their own rules, as if you're kind of saying you are, let's do a little bit more antiquated version of it, that I can't remember what movie it is, but, or something where you kind of, isn't it, the Pirates of the Caribbean, where Sparrow is not allowed to put his feet on the soil. He must be on the ocean, or he can stand in a barrel of soil from another country. Then he's technically not putting the feet on the soil, right? So on the ground. So he's on that barrel and has to be carried around. He's not putting his feet on the ground. So that's what these races are doing. And that means when you encounter them, you will actually have two different nationalities, two different settings, two different jurisdictions, two different sets of laws, and two different sets of rules of engagement, if that happens. And that's the reality I'm part of, and the way I've been dealing with all of the infusions and the intrusions and the different dealings I've had and encounters holographic energetically with these different races, telepathically being in contact, where it's possible for them for a short period of time through different forms of field intrusions, where they have engineered specific energy fields, meet-up scenarios, engineered that so that I would get in contact with that, because they know I'm well-intended, well-meaning, and will always approach people from principle 2. So in that one, I am kind of, if someone approaches me, I am in a manner, I need to engage with that person. That's part of our rule set on our planet. And that is what they're using, quote unquote, against us. So they engineer specific vessels or for the purpose alters the holographic configuration of that person, send that person into the program, because we live in an energetic program, little bit like the movie The Matrix. They can alter the reality program, not that it is the Matrix, but it has components that we can use the analogy of the movie The Matrix to understand what's going on here. It is much, much more complex, as I always say, and it's not run by computers. It's run by crystal pillar technology, and it's run by a very, very complex set of reality technology that is not depicted in Matrix the movie. But there are similarities, as in kind of being part of a reality program where it's possible to interfere with that reality program. And I want to hint a little bit here too. You can look that up on YouTube, or you can read Dolores Cannon and her books. And she talks about how these people that are under these alien programs, that in the abduction scenario, they can literally fly in with a craft over a highway of cars. And the only one that will see the craft, and that's the person in the car. Everybody else will not see it, because they can modulate and transform holographically the surroundings. So they can interfere with this reality, including lifting up an entire car from the highway and into the craft, beam it up literally. So that's what they're capable of. And I will say in my own personal experience and everything I have seen and experienced with these groups of races that are here, their ability to pull in, their ability to amplify, their ability to lift up, their ability to interfere with my personal life in all ways and forms, their ability to manipulate with my home settings, my surroundings, the ability to shift things, as I have seen. I talked about that other places as well. I've got two prominent examples that are really standing out. One is I was walking my dog years ago, and I was going uphill, returning to home, and towards me come an SVU, a black one with black tires, Men in Black kind of car, and not the one for the movie, the Men in Black, but what we typically, FBI and what have you, that we're seeing in American movies, right? Such a car coming in front of, towards me, and I noticed there was a specific energy around it, the density around, the vibration of the molecules around me, the air molecules changed. It all kind of became very compact, more dense. I got alert. My whole alarm system kicked up, and I looked at the car. And in the car, there was this woman with this silver hair, page cut, squared around like Cleopatra or something like that. And she was looking at me, and there was this whole air around her, metal-like, different. I definitely got the Giza complex military project. There was a lot of information that came from her that just everything about it was kind of whoa. And that in itself was an experience enough. And then I continued walking, perhaps for 2 minutes. And then she came again, the same car, the same woman coming towards me again. And you see, this is where your mind tries to find meaning in what you've seen, because she was first driving downhill. That means that she had to go all the way downhill to the law of physics. And then she would have to turn around and come back, which would have been impossible due to the way the road net and the way that the roads were built up. And she was not driving uphill and then returning and coming back, which would be the short version, which would have allowed to do it within 2 minutes, but it would have been impossible. And she came back, the exact same scenario played out. And I was just kind of, is this déjà vu or whatever's going on? But it was so more than that. And then I just got inside my head, we have got complete control of this reality, and we can do whatever we want here. Now you've seen how capable and skilled we are of manipulating reality. That was the first set where I really got that. I've seen other stuff. I've got plenty of stories. My niece that was pregnant, and the thing that was in her, the holographic energy system of the child, were transferred from that to me, because it was not in use in that human. It was not supposed to be there. It was not functional. The DNA of the child could not hold it. So they shifted the energy system, the holographic overlay, from the child to me. And then I had the soul, quote unquote, in me, and I got literally my stomach bloated up as if I were pregnant in the same month like my niece. And I had to struggle with that for days until I could get the soul out of me and then release it through the gate systems. Then my stomach resumed to its original configuration, not being pregnant anymore. Or being around people that have a huge amount of overweight, my body imprints on that biofield, and then I get bloated up like them. Once you really begin to understand the holographic energy system behind your body, you will see things and perceive things where you understand that reality is not what science tells you. It is so much more, and it's completely controllable. And the other one I want to put in here is that when I was in Australia, I did see, you have heard me saying this many times, because that's another one where your brain just crashes completely. I was sitting meditation. Again, you have this density of energy, the molecules are changing, the vibration is changing around you. You know, you are alert, you need to know, focus now, you look out. And then I looked out, and amongst these huge puffed clouds, they have cumulus clouds, came out a huge round sphere of the size of, it was enormous. The cloud was enormous. The one it came out of, the craft itself was similarly enormous, white sphere, round white sphere, coming out the cloud horizontally, moving so slowly that is not possible within our technology as we know these different, the TikTok and these kind of, sorry, not the TikTok, the Tic-Tac, and these kind of, crafts that we know that defies what we call aerial dynamics, right? So coming out so slowly out of the clouds, literally as if I was watching Contact of the Third Degree, right? Coming out so slowly out of the cloud right there. And then while I was getting my attention on it, I wanted to call to the one I was staying at, saying, hey, there's a crowd here, because he was able to see crafts as well. And then it just, the moment I had that thought, it began retracting into the clouds similarly horizontally in the same slow pace. And the moment I got the words over my lips, it was gone. And it was just kind of, I barely had the time to catch my phone or whatever. Probably wouldn't be caught on my phone either way. But that was one of these moments where I kind of saying, wow, that was amazing. So yes, I've seen my share of crafts, including the little dots in the sky, which we can always discuss whether these are satellites or they're actual crafts or whatever is going on. And other situations where the molecular state of the surroundings changed when I drove downhill and I got the warning that now my life was in danger and time was slowed down. And the moment that happened, I saw the car coming from the left and I knew it was going to cut my path because it was turning right and I was coming downhill. So I pushed the brakes, slowed down my whole, my descent of the hill. And then the car cut me off and I was just able to follow the turn of the car with my bicycle and not, and then when the car stopped, then I fell because I was just kind of sucked into the energy of the car or whatever, followed the movement of it, was focused on following the movement of the car, knowing what it was doing. It was turning right. I had to follow that turn right. And everything was slowed down so I could do the movements. And then the car stopped and then the energy wore off and then I fell. And then I kind of got scrapes on my hands and these kind of things. But that was all that happened because I was in that weird moment in no time where I could navigate willingly and consciously to avoid a large amount of damage. Compared to if I hadn't got the warning, if I hadn't slowed down, I would have come downhill with full speed and I would have crashed right into the car and then I would have flipped over the car and then we would have talked about a whole other amount of damage. So that's another example. And I've had plenty others where I get the warnings. Round the corner there in Australia, around the corner, there will come a truck. And I was just I stepped away from the road I was walking because there was no pathway. And I stepped in and then just came a huge, truck around the corner. I remember that one because it was white and it had this weird shiny silvery pipes. It was like a truck from hell, literally. You see these kind of things. He said that it was white, and then it just came blasting through me. If I had walked on the street, it would have hit me. So I've seen, these are the things that you say, well, it's just your intuition. No, because what is different is you get this slow down the molecules, you get this whole environment that changes. And you know, the moment that that happens, not only am I seeing grays and I have got grays around me that second, I'm also understanding that as that happens, I'm seeing what would have happened because the scenario has to play out on the timeline, but then I shift doing something else, and then I move on to a new timeline, which means that the older version of me then dies and ceases to exist, and I have to clear the fields and the remnants of it and what have you, so that I can position myself on the new artificial timeline that has been created. And then sometimes they have to reloop to get me back on the original timeline where I actually belong, where I'm supposed to do my work. And that's a lot of hassle and a lot of memory loss and a lot of distortion and a lot of trouble when we talk about the artificial uplifting of the electrons of the electromagnetic fields that we are part of, which then means it creates distortion as it returns to its original state. And that's the problem with the relooping, and that's the problem with this shift on the different timelines. So I'm not going into to talk about why they're doing this. This is just my life in a nutshell. And many of you, as you get your double awareness up and running, you will see you're probably part of these programs as well. You can say, is it done for benevolent purposes, or have I chosen to be part of this program? Absolutely not. I see it as a kind of interest from stakeholders to preserve a vessel from where they are capable of harvesting a huge amount of original genetics. So for them, it's an investment to keep me going. It's not because they're protective. You see how suspicious I am. So when we talk about this principle 2, of course, we meet what is there from an angle and a perception of meet others as you would like to be met yourself, and do principle 1, do unto others what you want them to do unto you, right? But these races don't play by that. They know we play by the progressive rules of the original rules of engagement, treating others as we would like to be treated ourselves, and always seen in the perspective of we are on a joint progressive journey, and therefore we work for the highest good of the many. But we can't project it onto the D13 collective that has changed, especially not the ones that were hit by the timeline event, because they have gone into a different scenario of survival of the fittest, of service to self, of continuing their own species on the cost of others, creating these pocket realities inside ours so that they will not be hit by the transgression rate of our system. That means that if they are like Jack Sparrow on a barrel of their own soil, they can do atrocities here without the feedback loop mechanism, the amplification vector that should ensure that if they are using the energy of a reality where they're technically not allowed to be, where they have no claims and no lineages link up, they're not part of the original construction. They are not coded into the system to be allowed to be there. They have no claims and no rights and no allowances to be here, no matter if they are here on invite. That's the trickery they did with some of the military projects. They got themselves tricked in. So they are here on illegal grounds. And if they were using our reality field, that would then kick in what's called the segregation dynamics. It would try to push them out. The construction itself would try to push them out. And my body's here going into complete trying to lock down, right? It would then push them out. But because they are having people giving them consent to be here, they have technically what's called a visitor allowance. So they are asking, since if they cannot link up to the technology and get access and override the code systems of the technologies, because they are so different than our system, they have no play here, such as the androids. unless they are of what we call the old world order type that were part of the Draco system. And they changed the technologies on our planet to allow for that type of maintainer androids to be here. And that's the type I'm dealing with. But then you have the Orion Greys and the Greys from the Orion system that do not belong here because the Orion system has no access point here. They got allowances during the time of Atlantis, but that was taken away from them. So they have had to get in on all sorts of other ways, as we're also seeing it as putting that constellation on the sky, which is illegal as well. And all of these things to try and get access. And they are constantly working to get access via different species that are here, overriding their code systems and then using them as carriers to get to us, or use different forms of bugs, or insert different types of technologies, whatever they're trying to do. And all of these things will always begin to deteriorate and fall apart unless they can align with some of the negative races that are already present here, then use them to get access to our reality field. So that's where you need to understand that you might meet something that is benevolent, but behind there might be something else. And that's the important thing of being able to look through the different layers of what you're dealing with, the multidimensionality. When we talked about Enki, the forefront was Sirian, but behind everything about it was Orion. So that confused my mind quite a lot but if you are only able to see in the fifth dimension, you will only see the Sirian. You will think that that's benevolent, but you will not be able to see the eighth dimensional negativity that's behind the dark level on the LPR3 or density 3 level. So you have to be able to see and perceive and interpret information in density 1, density 2, and density 3 to be able to really understand the races that are here. As I said, there are 9 layers of the emotional field, and that is the 3 layers of density 1, the 3 layers of density 2, and the 3 layers of density 3. LPF1, LPF2, and LPF3, as I call it, less progressive reality field 1, the level of information systems and consciousness potentials that are capable of existing within what we call the outer domain, or density 1, or the LPF1. And the middle domain, the density 2, or dimension 4 to 6, or the middle domain, LPF2, density 2, dimension 4 to 6. These are just the different explanations of the same realm of the same domain. And then you have the inner domain, which is LPF3, or density 3, or dimension 7 to 9. And technically, your biofield is outer domain, your emotional field should be density 2, and your mind field should be density 3. So these are, again, the different ways that we are built up. And the emotional field is capable of vibrate once you clear that one out and get it restored to the chiasm, and the technology that runs the heart field in the correct manner, consciousness technology that you create and you uphold, then you're able to vibrate energy into these different 9 fields of the outer domain, the middle domain, and the inner domain, from where you can perceive information by vibrating it up, by aligning yourself in the correct manner with whatever's in front of you or whatever comes into your field. So these are, again, some of the sciences that we need to have so that we quickly can align with, scale up and scale down, whatever we're dealing with. Is it a density 1? Okay, then we'll just do that one. Or is it density 2 or 3? And the insectoids are, even though they are middle domain species, they are capable of existing in the outer domain as well. Their physical forms, their biofield can adapt to be in the outer domain, which is why many of the android races are built upon insectoid genetics. So these are the sciences we need to know about the species that are here. Which domain do they belong to? What are their consciousness potentials? What are their genetic makeup? What are they capable of doing? What does that mean with their sciences, their technologies, and why they're here, and who is ruling that system? Who are they typically controlled by? Who's behind them? So we don't just take face value, but actually investigate what's in front of us. And that's with this information, you need to contemplate on it. And that means you work with it holographically, energetically, and consciously, so that you not only listen to this information, but you also learn to deal with this information when it comes around. Contemplation on information in the right manner builds up the energy configuration that allows you to process that level of information energetically and consciously on a later point in time. It's not just something you have learned, it's something you actually have experienced. It's part of your perception field. So that means, what does that mean? That means that when you encounter it again, once you have worked with it correctly, cleared it, transformed it, and aligned with it in a manner that is suitable for your energy system, and cleared out everything else, all the distortions that are not in alignment with your energy system, but keeps the configuration of it so you know what it actually is. That means the next time you encounter that one, you don't even have to think about what it is. You will naturally understand what it is. Your system will naturally go in and begin to transform the energy to the configuration you have changed it into the first time you met it, so that you will not be harmed by the same type of energy again. And this is also where the different groups that are here, they align. That's why they have so many different timelines. Then they will put you into a new timeline. They will link you up to a new piece of technology. So you have to do it all over again. And that's the merry-go-round. And that's the thing that kind of sucks when we're doing this work, is that we nail it down on one level and we completely get the configuration that allows us to work energetically and consciously in the correct manner that is non-harmful for us or the others, due to the laws of the rules of engagement, the laws of energy and the principles. But they just shift timeline. They just go into another barrel of energy, so to speak, into another pocket of reality from where they could do it all over again. These are some of the repetition technologies that they have as well here. So their whole goal is kind of, do they want to accrete this reality to the point where they actually take it over? No, that's not of their interest, because this system is so dissimilar to theirs. And if they were to stay here as the colonizers, they had to adapt the original technologies. That's what the Draco and the colonizers did, that allowed them to live on the different shields and on the different sections of our planet and create specific vessels. They didn't take on organic vessels, but they created bugs and birds and what have you instead, that allowed them to be here. They had crafts in the holographic network. They altered the human genome to be able to carry versions of themselves, not as a full link up, but as a kind of a blend, to some degree, being able to go in and go out, being able to pull in whatever they needed to do, rarely really being present inside the base program, because they don't need that. They have their own adjacent artificial realities. These are crumbling, unfortunately, and are now completely run by different types of grays from other systems, because it has crumbled to the degree where it's now insectoid instead of being avian. Raptoid is now purely insectoid. And it is run by the different scavengers. And that's the problem I talk about, that the old world order technologies and the stations that they used to work with in the fourth dimension have now been taken over and raided by scavengers. And that gives them access to portions of humanity. And that's very, very unfortunate, unless we change the reality program. And that's some of the new reality program attempts that were done by both the Arcturians and the enhanced humans to try and create a new reality program, so we would cut off the entrance points for the scavengers. So it's all energy. It's all holographic energy. The science is behind reality that determines whether or not a species can get access. And that's the problem with well-meaning, well-intended humans that have not studied the sciences and the laws and the rules of the different species they're dealing with. They are naturally assuming that if a species approaches them in a benevolent manner, then that species must be benevolent. They are not looking at the consciousness potentials, the energy, the genetics, where that being is from, what the purpose is of that being, what the code system in that being is telling them. They are listening telepathically to what they're hearing, because they are not detecting and dealing with the energetic composition of the being they are in front of. Similarly, as the program that runs the human perception of another living being, very few people, when they see a human, they are not even discussing with themselves whether or not that is a human. Their brain will tell them that's a human form, so it must be a human. And I want to put in the good example here from Men in Black 1, the movie, where you have that human that where the insectoid wears the skin of the human, and you have others things there where you look at the human but there's something entirely else. And I think that's one of the clever things of the movies, the Men in Black, is to show that just because it's humans does not mean it's human. Even you have that huge insect bug, that cockroach with the human skin on, people are not even looking at that weird decaying thing that's in front of them. They think they just brainwashed. That's a human form, so it must be a human. Not kind of, it looks like you're wearing the skin. They're not really, they don't go through the whole process of thinking of what that actually is. They will just kind of do the shortcut, and then the heretic, or they just do the shortcut of within their belief system of saying, that's a human. It looks human. It talks human. Thus it must be human. No, that's not the case. So that's also part of the learning curve of our naivety. We can't trust what we're seeing with our eyes. Step one, because we're limited within the spectrum of light. Step two, all of the other informations that we're getting subconsciously or energetically are weeded out. We literally annul them before they even get processed in our brain. Perhaps we should start processing that level of information. But then we get into this whole weird zone where we're no longer trusting our senses. We can no longer trust what we see. And most people freak out there because then they have to deal with stuff that they typically were frightened of as kids. You see, many kids have that extrasensory perception already. That's why they're afraid of the dark. That's why they're afraid of things under the bed. That's why they are seeing things where nobody else is seeing. And parents typically just kind of, it's not there. But children have this enormous amount of brain capacity because their neural networks have not been engineered into certain rigid conceptualization of what reality is. It's not, the structural layers of the brain has not been made yet. So they're just open to everything, perceiving everything. They're not limited. The first step of limitation goes through the parents that are telling them the what is and what isn't. And are actually shaming them out emotionally to say this is not what it is, instead of parents investigating and kind of saying, perhaps there is something there. Or whatever, and then work with it in the right manner. And I would say also some of the kids that actually have that ability, I have that from personal experience, they will fight it off. They will not be happy about having these extrasensory perception levels, and they will feel so different that they will do whatever they can to shut it down because they just want to be part of the group. They don't want to see these things. It scares the shit out of them. Who wants to be frightened their entire childhood? And I know that. I was frightened my entire childhood. I saw things. I didn't sleep between 12 and 3 o'clock every night because I had to stay up and be vigilant of whatever was coming in, because that's where the night crawlers are at very high level. I didn't go out once winter time after 6 o'clock. I rarely go out because then I would see things roaming and running around the streets that would scare the shit out of me. I still see it, but now it doesn't scare the shit out of me anymore. I still see these things. Because nobody told me, because I was a clever kid, so I didn't tell anybody. So nobody told me to shut it down. So I just kept it as my little secret. But it made me feel so different. And that's also, I was bullied at school and blah, blah, blah. And there you have it, all these kind of things that is done to humans that could have an activation process going on early stages. The whole surroundings, family setting, everything is engineered to ensure that you do not activate. So that's part of the program that's going on as well. Other humans are being used as tools to shut you down. Literally, if you are on this path where you could activate. So we are, not that we are again to see everybody as a tool to try and take you out, but we must go beyond our limitations. We must go beyond our natural inclined way of projecting onto others what we think we are. We project onto them. Similarly here, as in kind of, now I activated all my warrior composition and I've seen so many stuff that I'm literally assuming that everything that comes my way is probably an act of aggression, which is also a little bit of a projection. It is also not the right approach. So every time I have to be mindful of playing by the principles, but I am on my toes before and after, and with every encounter and the aftermath, checking my energy system, scanning myself for imprints, knowing probably got hit by something and I'm dealing with it. I just wait for it to grow so I can see what it is. And I know in my heart that every single encounter, whether or not it's instigated or artificial or just naturally occurring due to the reciprocity dynamics of principle 4, where people are drawn into me so I can see what I need to clear out. Whatever it is still there to something I deal with. There is no encounter, whether it's going to the laundry or meeting another person or a fly in my room or a bug on my floor or a spider in my bedroom or whatever it is. Everything carries energy that can be imprinted into my higher order energy system. Because that's the properties of the holographic realities. And these are the sciences of accretion that is played upon the ability that holographic energy units respond differently under different laws that are imbued with consciousness and technology that are connected to consciousness potentials, that are connected to patterns of change and re-engineering of reality through different consciousness units, compositions, and technology, modulation, holographic overriding, holographic insertion, holographic blend, holographic merging, understanding all the differences blend and merge are two different things. So understanding the dynamics and the sciences of this, then we can begin to understand the accretion that is going on in this reality. Then we can begin to understand the alien crafts. Then we can begin to understand the tic-tac and what it's doing there, creating an energy, a pattern, weaving on the holographic network. The movements it was making was like, if you have a loom where you are weaving back and forth, creating a new holographic network, probably creating a portal. See, these are the things we need to remember and learn again so we know what we're dealing with. And once we have understood what we are dealing with, then the next question then comes, what can we do about it? How do we rationally, logically, strategically deal with these holographic realities, their holographic sciences, and these different races that are here and the way they operate under their own laws via pocket realities where we technically have no claim and no jurisdiction? How do we deal with that? And that is dealt with through trials, holographic trials within Drum Up, where we are walking into their reality, drumming up a trial within their court system. And there we stand erected and sovereign in our own energy. And we are showing by our sciences and our understandings of reality dynamics that we have a right to drum up that trial, that we have a right to do that trial where we are saying this is illegal. They are here under no allowances. Yes, they have gained consent, but the consent they have been given is through manipulation and trickery, and by that are illegal and are not in alignment with the original laws between the D13 and D14 collective. So we also need to learn the rule book, and we need to learn the laws of the different collectives and how they operate within our sector if we are going to deal with these things. And the first step of illegal accretion is always doing a trial. It is always trialing within the court system of the race that is trying to get in. And it is always about declining and not giving consent. And it's always approaching the races that are coming in on their own turf, under their own rules of engagement, under their own set of dynamics that they understand, not by ours. Because they know what we are, and they are tricking us and manipulating us on all levels of our well-intended and naive approach to reality. And that's another maturing process we need to go through. And that's where most of the what we call people that have this huge heart with compassion are getting consternated and constipated, because then they have to learn dynamics that is so against what they believe to be the right approach, that they truly believe by being peaceful, other races will become peaceful as well. And in a perfect world, that might be the case. But what they are overlooking is that they are not this ball of light anymore. They have a lot of inserted genetics from the different species. So even though they think they're shining light, they are actually not shining light. They are shining a complexity of genetic insertions that allows an enormous amount of distortion. So they're not shining light, they are shining distortion. And by that can be tricked in all ways and forms by the different species that have got access to them. So this is the difficulty in, and then you'll say, well, Randi, do we all then have to become these skeptical, hardcore, cynical warriors that are not trusting anything? And I would say, no, you need to learn the balance point between being a good human for the highest purity rates, the highest standards, the highest progression rate, acting in a way for the highest good of the many, and truly understanding your purpose of a progressing, developing, consciously, unfolding human being that are trying to create the original dynamics of all the universal cycles and what that means and what your true core essence is. Because then you will respond in a dual manner, in a double awareness manner with these species that you are able of standing sovereign and completely solidified in your own energy system and who and what you truly are without that being influenced by whatever's going on, because you stand so strong in your own energy and you emit that true core energy of the highest trinity of what you are, the highest trinity of what you are, so that you can claim these jurisdictional rights, so that you can segregate and by the laws of their system and the laws of our system, find solutions where you then become diplomatic. But as we also know, only the ones that stand enormously strong in their energy and know every single component of their energy system and the reality field they are part of can claim any rights of anything. And that's part of the distortion, part of the disinfo, because if they can make us believe something else that is actual to our system, if they can make us believe something that's similar to their system, then we are suddenly playing on their turf, and then we are suddenly adjusting our energy system to their reality fields, and then we become part of their reality field, and then we play under their rule book, and then if we try to play by our rule book, we will then transgress in their reality, and that will then create punishment, which they are then allowed to imbue on us. So that's another lesson that needs to be learned, to stand sovereign in our own energy so that we understand that we are not to be engaged and via the law participation into their realities. And that's where the curiosity did kill the cat, because we didn't know what we are dealing with. And that's also part of the trigger that's been going on for the last 30 years inside our system. That's the promoters. That's what that agenda is. Thank you.